Welcome into the Pro Box TV studio. This is Boxing Scene Today. Just so you know, Boxing Scene Today is about boxing news, what's happening in the headlines. Our Pro Box TV show talks about Pro Box fighters, the fights we have coming up. Well, every now and then, those things intersect. They had Lester Martinez, Joeshon James. Lester Martinez, a stellar knockout, showcasing his punching power in a fight we called last Saturday in San Bernardino, California. First off, big shout out to the crowd. You guys were absolutely outstanding. Love the Central American, Mexican American fans. You guys were shouting and yelling, and we appreciate it. But I was ringside alongside these guys, the champs, Chris Algieri, Paulie Malignaggi. George Foreman recently passed. Big shout out to his family, everybody dealing with the loss of George Foreman. But against George Foreman, Muhammad Ali was told by Cus D'Amato he's a bully. Go out, punch him in the mouth. And that's what he did. But then he went back to his boxing, the famous rope-a-dope. It seemed, gentlemen, in this fight, like Joeshon James was going out to establish that he's tough and stay in the face of Lester Martinez, and I thought he'd then go back to his boxing. He didn't. He stayed in the face of Lester Martinez, and he paid the price. How surprised were you, Paulie?
I was surprised at how easily Lester made it look, but I also was surprised at the approach Joeshon took. You know, I understand holding the ring and taking control of the ring, and I actually didn't mind that Joeshon tried that. I just wasn't sure what he was trying to do, staying so low with his left hand down. Like you guys with lead hand down, you know, are typically rangy fighters, you know, and he's a rangy fighter in terms of being tall. He can be in and out, but he went to hold the ring. And when he went to hold the ring, to hold position in the ring, he set himself low with a low left hand. So Lester's right hand couldn't miss. You know what I mean? Like where usually you'd be able, and a matter of fact, a couple of times he got hit while he's pulling because you can't get low and pull. You know, it's like, you know, you can't get caught between styles. If you're gonna stay low, you got to get underneath. You got to get to the side. If you're gonna be a pull fighter or a distance change fighter, you got to stay tall and pull. You can't get caught between styles. And this is what happened with Joeshon James, and Lester made him pay.
And this idea, Lester Martinez, we knew coming in, came in with 18 wins, 15 by knockout, a very heavy-handed puncher. It's almost like he couldn't believe this tall guy with the long jab who had shown decent footwork in previous fights was standing in front of him. It was like he was giving him a gift. He took it in round number 4.
Well, it's just like the champ said, he got stuck in between styles. And I agree. I think if he came, the first round, I thought Joeshon fought an excellent tactic. Came out very aggressive, touching the body with stab jabs, hitting the body. You could see red blotches on Lester in the first round. Pinned him against the ropes a few times, let those hands go. But it just seemed like the second round when he should have came out and go, all right, now I've established you got to be careful with me. I can punch too. Then you make that range. You set that distance and you draw that line in the sand. Like, all right, you stay on that side. I'm going to stay over here. Now we're going to box it out. He didn't. Lester came out at a different gear in round 2, and Joeshon said, all right, I'm going to step my gear up too, and stayed right in front of him. And pretty much that was the beginning of the end. And as competitive as he was even in the second round, the fight was essentially over at that point.
And again, I'll tell you, I don't think that, I don't have a problem with Joeshon staying in front of Lester as long as he's able to pull and keep his height. He gave up his height. Yeah, he gave up his height standing in front of him. So now you're standing in front of him and you're giving up your height while trying to still use those tactics and maneuvers of a tall fighter, meaning pulling. Yep. You're gonna get low, you can't pull anymore. You know what I mean? If you're gonna get low, you got to get underneath. You got to step around. You got to actually move in and smother at times or body your opponent. You can be tall. Then if you're going to be tall, you can pull, okay? You can use either tactic and still be in front of a guy, and you may be able to make it work, but you got to know which one you're going to use. Well, we were talking, he got caught between styles. Yep. Now that's not going to work, especially when you're with a puncher, when you're in with a guy who's throwing big punches. I mean, Lester could not miss with the right hand.
And every one of those big shots takes a little bit off that energy bar, and you can't get that back.
And I'll tell you something else. You know, Joeshon, as physically talented as he is, doesn't have a big amateur career. It is my opinion, and the more I cover boxing, obviously with my own experience, and the more I watch boxing, you raise your IQ through your amateur career. Your amateur career is where you gain your IQ. So these guys there are guys that are successful in the pros that didn't have big amateur careers. That happens. A lot of them are mostly punchers and whatnot. But typically, you don't see a fighter, not saying it's all the time, but typically you don't see a fighter with not a big amateur career who doesn't have a big IQ. And you don't count because you were a kickboxer, so you don't count. Because
you did do your time before you
still put in time in a ring and where you're getting that
I fought about headgear.
that fighting experience, and that's still absorbing IQ. You're still absorbing distance changes. You're absorbing, targets coming at you, moving, all that stuff. You need that experience. You can't go from just training in the gym and now turning pro with 10 amateur fights. It can work. I've seen guys become champions doing it. Even one of my friends going up the ladder, Peter Quillen, didn't have a big amateur career and became a world champion. But
a puncher.
But a puncher, exactly. Yeah. You typically don't see the IQ. The IQ usually, if you look at IQ fighters, they typically have pretty substantial amateur careers or successful amateur careers.
There was a show I did one time, Made. It was on CMT, where I had to teach a housewife to win an MMA fight, and I had 6 weeks. She had no background at all. Episode. Right. So the point is,
did she win?
She won. But my point is,
but there's a but.
No. The producer, and I did a good job with her. She's doing well sparring. She's doing all this stuff really well because I just said, all right, what can you do? And I got her better at those things. Mm-hmm. And we're walking into we're walking in the building the day of her fight, and the producer goes, I think she might win this. And I go, if the other girl leg kicks and moves, she's gonna lose. Yeah. I didn't have time to teach her. I can't teach her 10 things. She had a good right hand. Yeah. She had good balance.
Focus on the strengths.
I focused on, and what it sounds like is you're like, if you start boxing pro late without an amateur career, hey, he's a good puncher. He has a good left hand. He has good side-to-side movement. That's all. You tend to stick to your strengths rather than have that fully well-rounded game. I said, I can't teach her 9 things. I'm going to teach her 3 because we got to fight in 6 weeks. Well, it's a similar kind of thing.
In the amateurs, you're fighting so many styles in such a short, compact period of time. For example, you go to a national tournament, you're fighting every single day. Yep. And every single day, you could be fighting a completely different style. And you've got to adjust
different
constantly.
Body types, different styles.
You got to adjust constantly. So it forces you to absorb IQ points. You know what I mean? Whether you're winning or losing, it forces you to absorb. And the more you win, the more busy your schedule gets because a win in the amateurs leads to another fight, leads to another tournament, leads to another tournament. It's just numbers. That's why these guys who come up with these records like 80-1 in the amateurs, but they have no Olympic gold medals, that's all, for me, that's all bullshit.
Yeah. Right.
Because every time you win in the amateurs, it leads to another tournament, another fight, another thing. So you're automatically grasping that IQ. You're absorbing it. So for me, going back to bringing this full circle.
Are you calling Lomachenko a liar?
That's exactly why he's got the IQ, right?
2 gold medals, right?
But what I'm saying is, there's guys like Joeshon who have the physical talent, physical capability, but he didn't have that time to absorb the IQ. Now, is there time to still get it? Yeah, it's only 1 loss, and it's still lost to a world-class fighter, Lester Martinez. And Joeshon has had success in his career up until the Lester Martinez fight. So if he has the mental capacity, he can get back in the gym and get back on the horse, so to speak. But again, he's at a deficit IQ-wise in the ring because of his lack of experience, and that's where he needs to gain more knowledge. Well, and hopefully this experience helps him.
Jim, I think I know. 2 things. One, when he first came out, I couldn't help but think about Tommy Hearns. His physique is incredible. I mean, so tall, long, thin legs, yes, wide shoulders, and he looked physically strong too, but he didn't set the line like Tommy does. And Tommy never bent his knees. Tommy never got low like that. Regardless, but in terms of what he can do now, can he right the ship? I do think he can. And you said I don't count because I had the kickboxing experience. I disagree. I think that taught me grit and toughness and doggedness, but I think I actually learned my IQ sparring. Because historically, everyone knows that.
You had a base.
I spar.
You didn't come from nothing to sparring. You came from kickboxing to sparring.
But it's such a different pace and different style and different sport. It's very difficult to make that crossover, which is why so few guys do it. But I cut my teeth in gyms with world class guys. If Joeshon is willing to get on the road, get out of his comfort zone, get into other gyms.
He's in California.
Yeah, but is he making that trip over to Robert Garcia's gym? Is he going to wild card? Is he jumping and flying to South Florida to spar with different styles? I was all over the country sparring guys from every walk of life. That's where I learned my boxing IQ, and I think there's still time for someone like.
Where does Lester go? I mean, in a super middleweight division that's getting more and more exciting.
I was about to ask that.
You've got a guy who's super exciting, can punch.
He showed he's world class.
Makes the fight. Is a proper finisher. And is a seek and destroy guy. And he's got a fan base. That was a good crowd there. Yeah. I'd watch him because he's also got his limitations are like fun limitations because he can punch. He's aggressive, but he's hittable too, right? So he doesn't have a lot of head movement. He's not exactly a defensive specialist. His defense is his offense, and man, does he have an offense, obviously. So I think this kid can really step into a world class situation rather soon.
Yes,
in a super middleweight division that is sort of. It's got good fighters, but there's not one really beast at the top. Canelo almost doesn't even count anymore because he fights whoever he wants to fight, and he doesn't. I hate that super fighter shit. Can I say that on you?
Yeah, as far as I know, you can.
I really hate it because you take away from the sport. You got a great weight class.
Right.
where it could be a lot of fun if these guys fight each other, and I think they all will fight each other, and because they all got to make names for themselves. You got like guys like Pacheco, guys like Berlanga. You've got still Caleb Plants hanging around in there. You've got
Trevor McCumbee showed himself to be someone
McCumbee
who's
can
worth
be
actually
fun.
fighting.
Yeah,
McCumbee versus Martinez.
Great
Take
fight.
my money.
Great fight.
I mean, come on, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Two physical guys, Lester probably a little finer tuned, but McCumbee has a big amateur background too. That fight just came to me, but I really like that one.
Can we do that on Pro Box, or is that outside the budget?
Gary, make it happen. Whatever. Gary,
That'd be a
go
good
for
one.
it.
But
Has McCumbee fought since Caleb or no?
no,
I don't think he has.
Caleb McCumbee probably has to get a win too.
yeah, but no, I agree with you, Champ. I think he's right there. I could see him in a world title fight. He's 19-0. That's when I got my world title. I was 19-0.
Yeah.
It was my 20th pro fight.
Yeah.
So the timing's right, especially with the amateur pedigree that he has. Plus, he can punch. I don't know,
Lester
man.
is the antithesis of Joeshon in that he had a big amateur career. He was an Olympian,
And
right?
but it showed that night too. You could tell. You could tell in terms
Central
of
American champion, Caribbean champion.
Yeah.
Hey,
medalist
what's a
in the
Central
youth
American
games.
champion? I mean, there's the Pan Am Games, and then there's the Central American Games. What
you got me.
Well, there's a
What's
Caribbean
this?
games too. There's
yeah.
and
So what is it? We just we just eliminate South America, and North America is just for us. Like,
apparently it is, but he won the Central American games.
are for everybody, right? Then you got the Central and Caribbean games.
Yep.
Like you're starting to like eliminate some countries. We're only allowed. Nobody can play with us.
But you see the fundamentals: hands up, chin down. He's got.
Well, I saw the adjustments too. He was
Exactly.
adjusting to a guy who was giving him a look that I don't think he expected. I don't think he expected Joeshon to come right in front of him the way he did.
Yeah.
And he looked a little bit like in the first round. He was like, "Oh, okay." And he was analyzing the data. Second round, he came back and he just upped
They
the
probably
gears.
told him in the corner, dude, this guy's right in front of you.
Yeah,
Just hit
just
him.
go. Yeah, step it up, and he did.
Two things I want to talk about that struck me in the middle of the fight. Number one, Joeshon James showed guts getting up the first time. I thought he was
laid out.
done. He looked like the Undertaker, just laying there and got up.
Ref did a good job not stopping it because a lot of times when a guy's laid out like that, they'll just wave it.
And they didn't. He got up. The second one is the second knockdown, which ended up being the final knockdown in round number 4. He went down kind of in stages and took a lot of extra damage. Yep. Would an amateur or somebody with a lot more experience have taken the knee? He maybe could have kept fighting. He was trying to stay up, and Lester was teeing off on him.
And he never tried to hold.
You get what I'm saying? He never tried to hold. He never took a knee. Inexperience to you? He took a lot of extra damage.
I mean, he could. He was also
Staying on
really
his feet.
hurt, so it's hard to say. You said he fell in stages. That's a tall guy thing. So having that motor
The ladder
control,
comes down, right?
having that motor control when you're that long and you're hurt.
But you're
that's
also
a
so
difficult thing,
long and tall that you can look like an octopus and wrap your arms around a guy too.
Never
if
did.
you grab him. Yeah, never did.
That was the difficulty. Joeshon James almost had too much heart for his own good, was trying to get up. And I'm like, dude, just take the knee.
Tall guys
Maybe
tend
you
to
can make
get
it.
knocked out bad. Think about Paul Williams when Sergio Martinez drilled him with that left hand. Face down. Think about Tommy Hearns. Any one of his knockout
against
losses.
Hagler,
They're all bad. Like the tall guys,
And even against Barkley, right?
Yes, bad knock, pulling straight back, getting clipped. It looks way more dramatic, but also the legs.
It's
go
like
out
a
from
tree,
under you.
right? Timber type of stuff. Yeah.
Fell down, but the good news, Lester Martinez looking absolutely fantastic. Maybe a world title opportunity soon in his future. Fight hard on Pro Box TV. Things open up for you. Ask Angelo Leo. Could be his next step. As it makes news, we'll bring it to you right here on Boxing Scene Today. Find out why millions are watching.